And then I'm going to go ahead and do roll call, and then we have a quick message we want to start with. So we're going to do roll call today with Jenny Shaker, Sam Schoenberg,
Present.
and Julio Garcia is present as well, so we can begin. Today we wanted to start first by taking a moment of silence. Unfortunately, our city has seen a lot of traumatic events and deaths and shootings over the last few weeks. So we specifically wanted to acknowledge the heartbreaking tragedies that have occurred in our cities. In particular, we want to address the shooting death of Officer Luis Huesca, the officer involved killing of Dexter Reed, as well as the shooting of Officer Gregory St. Louis in that same incident. Additionally, on April 13th, there was an incident on Chicago's southwest side. A mass shooting left a little girl, 9 years old, killed and 10 others injured. And ultimately, we also want to acknowledge and honor the death of Officer Salil Surjit, who was found dead in what has been ruled a suicide. Obviously, all these things are heartbreaking, and ultimately, the loss of life is always tragic. So I want to just acknowledge them and take a moment of silence. Thanks, everyone. So today, what we're going to do is go to our business as usual with our updates, and then we want to welcome and speak with Amy Thompson from the Impact for Equity. This is going to be a conversation around pretextual traffic stops. So we're really excited to dig into some data and viewpoints from Impact for Equity. We also want to give you an update on our community partnership plan that we announced last month. And as always, we're going to have 20 minutes of public comment. We'll have that towards the end today. So if you do want to sign up, please see Charles in the back. If you want to sign up, we have a few names already. And of course, we always end our meetings with a call to action. So to begin with our updates, we want to begin with the incidents reports. As usual, we like to show the volunteer reduction dashboard, which is available online. What we're seeing here is there's a slight uptick from the year prior, same year to date. We see battery victimizations up by 10%. I do want to acknowledge that robbery victimizations are up 73%. Luckily, there is a green item here. It's a reduction of almost 30% for carjackings compared to last year. I do want to note that we've had many attempts to have conversations with the office, the CPD office. I know that I want to acknowledge Sergeant Angelo that's here today with us. So thank you for being here. We've been trying to get a few different missions on the books with command staff. It is a very busy time of year, so we're going to continue to have those conversations and try to get those meetings scheduled. I do want to mention that I have a meeting scheduled with Captain Forbes this Friday, and I was actually able to connect with him on the phone on my way over here to ask him about a few key updates, some of the things I didn't want to highlight. I'm not sure if everybody heard, but there's 2 incidents of sexual assault in the district. Update from the captain is that they cannot divulge too much because the investigation is ongoing. They do have a lead, and they're waiting for more information, and they hope to make progress there. One piece of update related to the series of burglaries that we've had in the district over the last few weeks is that they have made one arrest that was tied to 5 burglaries. So that has been some good news as well. I did want to call out specifically that we have been previously informed that an email address to send our tips and videos if we see anything related to burglaries and robberies. That has been deactivated due to an influx of noise, as I was told, but we are being encouraged to instead use the CAPS email address. If you have any tips, concerns, or anything related to robberies or incidents in the neighborhood, please reach out to our CAPS office directly. As you can see, our email address is up here on the screen. It's also available on our resource page on our website, 19thdistrictcouncil.com. One of the things I did want to touch on as well is that the community partnership plan that we announced last month, we were able to have a meeting and a very productive meeting with Commander Jasani, Captain Forbes, and Sergeant Angelo, who was here in the building. It was a very productive conversation. We're really glad to see that we are aligned in goals and vision for this plan. We did communicate the fact that there are going to be CPD related efforts and non-CPD related efforts, and where we can enroll our CPD force, we will by taking advantage of the fact that CPD has already put out a strategic plan to address some of these concerns or ideas that we've already communicated or heard from you, and we will communicate to them. Sam is going to be updating us a little bit more on that in the future, but just wanted to pause and give an update there.
I have one quick thing about that. If you have specific questions or concerns about these steps, I encourage you to send your question, which is you can find on our website, and I'll serve out to other people. Also have that located on their website. So
please check out the resource page. I did this a couple of months ago, and we've been providing these on the offline version, but I wanted to touch base on this as well. The state's attorney's office provides us reports in terms of incidents and arrests in the district. And this is, again, is available on our resource page online. And I wanted to just highlight that there, in the 19th district, there were reported incidents, 1,145 incidents with arrest tallied up to 88, which equates to 8% arrest rate. And the arrested offenders actually totaled the 100. When we dive deeper into what top reported arrest incidents there were, you can see in the top right, the arrest theft was number one with 382 reported incidents of with an arrest rate of 6%, totaling 29 total arrested offenders. When you see the violent incidents down below, I wanted to highlight the domestic violence reported incidences, 33 there with a 33% incidence rate, and then the highest number, as you see, battery, 102 incidents with 12% arrest rate, with 13 arrested offenders. Again, you can see in the footnote, we have the report located on our website, so you can take a deep dive. And if you have any questions, you can reach out directly to the state attorney's office with their email address below. One other slide that we have here, if you want to take a look, is the felony reviews and prosecutions. I'm not going to dive in, it's a little bit hard to read here, but I did want to call out the fact Sam reached out to the state attorney's office to ask about continued investigations, but that's one thing that doesn't show up in these reports. So things that are ongoing and currently being investigated are not going to be shown up here. And we were told that there are two current investigations that are ongoing within the state attorney's office. One is a retail theft case, and the other was a sex crimes case. The retail theft case was later indicted, and the sex crimes case has no further update as of today.
So as you guys know, one of the things that our district council has been really working hard on is to understand the legacy of mental health crisis response for 19th district. We have been working hard and created a very exciting little palm card for people to access, hold it in their pockets and their wallets, and if you come across a mental health crisis, instead of calling 911 if it's a non-violent call, please call the number that's associated with the zip code that you are in, which is a little tricky. Right now, the city is still really trying to refine the responses, and we are trying to be a part of what that end result looks like. But this is what we have right now, kind of a puzzle system, and we encourage you guys to use it and to let people know about it, so that it gets used, and so that we can actually leave our officers and allow them to spend more time on more violent 911 calls that they are having to respond to. We are also doing a lot to try and make sure community gets it. We're ensuring that we have meetings, others offices. We are going to be attending roll call where we give one to each of the officers. One of our goals on our community partnership plan is a little sneak peek for next meeting. We are going to make sure every single officer in the 19th district has one of those cards. And the other thing that we are doing is going to the businesses and making sure each business owner along the business district has access to that card. If you are interested in helping me on that endeavor, I would love your assistance. Find your QR code, go to the bit.ly link, Mental Health Resources 19, and you can sign up for help with that. Thank you. Oh, and quick update on the workforce allocation study. Again, we've talked about this in the past. We've been working hard all in March to make sure that the city and that's the police have a comprehensive strategy based on data of how they're going to be using the resources so that they're most effective and efficient. The quick update is we are near agreement with a third-party organization to conduct the workforce study. CPD is choosing that partner. It is being heavily funded. The funding is fully there. They are right now, CPD and the funders and third party are working to kind of firm up what the work scope will be like, so that they really understand what they're going to be studying. And we are continuing to advocate to make sure that we as a community have a voice in what that looks like, and to make sure the questions we have around what policing should look like in the 19th and across the city get answered by that stuff.
I want to draw a brief update on the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability Nominating Committee. Those who haven't heard this before, many of you have at least 2 new people, so I need to say this all over again. The Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability is sort of our sister agency. It's a 7-member body that operates citywide and has pretty significant oversight power over the police department, the accountability agency that's really lots of police accountability, and the police misconduct inventory body, the police board. The current 7-member commission has been operating on an interim basis for the last couple of years, but they are designed to be nominated by a group of elected district councilors like us, and appointed by the mayor from that list, and then confirmed by the city council. In March, the nominating committee on which I serve, along with 21 other district councilors across Chicago, nominated 15 really exceptional individuals to Mayor Johnson to consider for appointment. Under the ordinance that all of this operates under, the mayor has 30 days to provide his list of appointments to the city council. He has not met that deadline. That deadline was April 7th. We are 2 weeks since so far. So I hope the mayor gets on this as quickly as possible. The interim commission is continuing to serve until their replacements are named, so the commission is continuing uninterrupted. But we do want to make sure that this process is respected and that we're getting this a new commission in place as quickly as we can. Once appointments are named, they will be submitted to the City Council Committee on Police and Fire for vote on recommending them to the full City Council. The nominating committee as a body had our first public meeting since we nominated folks just last week. We started to go over what we would like to review of our process going forward. We also have in the works a process report for the process that we sort of created from scratch over the last 9 months. The draft is 50+ pages, plus appendices that you can enjoy reading as soon as we're able to put it out. It's in final draft stages. The point of that is really to show our work publicly about how this body came together, created rules of order, created a leadership structure, created a community-informed rubric of criteria that we were looking for in nominating people who would represent the entire city on this commission. I'm extremely proud of the work that we've been able to do, and we did everything we could to follow the ordinance to the letter. Look forward to announcing that completed report later, but there's a sneak peek.
Next, we have been asked to provide a more detailed update on some of the community engagements and meetings that we have had. So here is a more comprehensive list of many of the people and organizations that we've been talking with. As we say every month, we are very committed and dedicated to coming out and talking to community members. Please invite us to your meetings. We're happy to attend. Please invite us for one-on-ones. We would love, or reach out, and we would love to have more discussions about what public safety can look like in our district. Also, in the name of community engagement, we have created these name tags, or we didn't create names, so we brought name tags. We would love to have people continue throughout the meetings to fill them out. If you're involved in any organization, we encourage you to write that down on the name tag. Get to know each other, get to know your neighbors, because one thing that we really believe is that strong communities make for safer communities. Knowing your neighbors is a really important piece of public safety. So we hope that this little piece helps encourage people to go ahead and do that. Additionally, we invite you to to bring a neighbor with you to this meeting. The more people that hear this information, the more people you can reach, the better. So, good luck to you. More people to this meeting. Thank you.
And before we get started on our full discussion today, I did want to again highlight the take action page because on our website, we are trying to make that a living embodiment of our work and we want to get the community involved. So if you want to sign up for the local business canvas that Jenny will be hosting, there is a link to sign up for that, and we would love everybody's help to spread, these fun cards that Jenny has printed for us in the 19th district. Even I have found myself in a situation in which I looked at our website for a mental health crisis number because I saw someone that may need help. I didn't realize what code I was in, and the fun card was actually extremely helpful for me to find or try to find some help. So very much encourage everybody to keep our website handy, and of course, help sign up to where.
And real quick, just on the back page. So our email address is there. We read those emails and respond to them. And if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out. We're also on Instagram. We respond to at the District Council. But if any of this, you have more questions or you have an idea for something else that can go on our website or some other resource that would be useful to get out to, we'd love to know about that. I can make changes pretty quickly. So reach out.
And I realize that we're in the way of that.
Yeah.
19th District Council email.com or 19thdistrictcouncil.com, and our information is there as well. So we're going to our discussions. We wanted to provide a community partnership plan update. So we go ahead and turn it over to Jenny. But I'm gonna do it. Just a reminder of our goal. Again, we were being asked to focus on more immediate short-term solutions that we can implement within our district so that we can increase safety today, as well as in parallel work on some of these longer-term strategies that we highlight on a month-to-month basis. But our goal specifically was, together as a community, help to decrease robberies and other violent crimes that are occurring in the district. So we presented our 5-point plan last time and wanted to provide an update. We have shared communication with the 19th district command staff. As I mentioned, that happened on the 10th of April, I believe. We met with the command staff for nearly an hour. As I mentioned, great alignment in terms of vision and goals. We're really excited to distill the conversations that we participated in and share our goals with command staff so that we can get their buy-in and understand what the best approach is to actually implement some of those plans. We've obviously solicited your ideas. We held 20 plus conversations. Definitely between 12 to 20 over the last 5 weeks. So we are excited to bring those ideas to you and see what kinds of goals we've formed. The next few steps, we want to bring these ideas, these goals to CPD, collaborate with our clear goals, as I've mentioned. Then we would like to present them to you, hopefully in the next month or so, what those plans are specifically. And this will be an ongoing initiative where we update you specifically on these plans on a month-to-month basis to understand what the progress has been made, if there has been made progress, and progress has not been made, what's going on, and how can we address that as a community. Just a quick sneak peek. We did meet last week for 2+ hours, distilling our notes, our conversations, those 15 to 20 conversations that we had, and understanding or planning how we can make them into SMART goals, so achievable and timely, actionable. We want to let you know that we are going to publicize this action plan that we've created, but also the distillation and organization spreadsheet, because we want you to see how we come to this. Obviously, we will not share any private information for anyone we spoke with, but we feel it's important for transparency that we share with you how we got to these goals. So please be on the lookout. And as usual, we are trying to be as transparent as possible. Always visit our website for our monthly presentations, any surveys that we put out. The raw data files are on our website as well, so you can know how we got to our takeaways.
I also want to share a bit about a strategic plan that the 19th Police District already has available for 2024. And this is publicly available on the city's website. The URL is at the bottom of this slide, will be clickable when it's on our website. Some of you may have been involved in this process before, but every year the 19th Police District holds at least 2 community conversations. These are in-person meetings where members of the 19th Police District take in public feedback on what the priorities are from the community for the coming year, and then the district puts that together into a strategic plan that they then publish. And I think a problem that I have seen is a lack of follow-up on that plan, except for the very end of that year. But what we have an opportunity to do is to focus on what's already in that plan, so much of which aligns with what we've been hearing from community members. Just to highlight here, this is a plan that is signed by everyone all the way up to the chief of the Bureau of Patrol in the police department. It's very, very high in the police department. It also is signed by the area deputy chief, area 3, where we are, which covers many police districts, signed by our commander, Commander Jason. So it's got buy-in from many individuals. It also is signed by the district advisory committee chair. The district advisory committee is nominally a community-based group that advises the police districts. I am hoping for more of a role in the district council in creating and improving this strategic plan going forward, but that's how it's currently structured. But if you look at the top goals that the police department set for itself here in the 19th district for 2024, many of them align with what we're seeing from community members. So the number 1 priority for 2024 was listed as robberies and criminal. That's a priority to reduce. And some of the commitments that the 19th Police District made were things like conducting safety awareness meetings and business walks, conducting roll calls, conducting CTA checks and rides, working with city services to get public lighting kits and ensure city service requests are done, and public teams conduct missions in entertainment areas like along South Street, near Wrigley Field and North Halsted, and having foot patrol, increased foot patrols for deterrence. The next priority was a reduction in burglaries, and some of the goals that were set in response strategies from the 19th police districts was working with the 19th district community policing office to conduct home safety seminars, as well as working with block clubs and neighborhood organizations. Other enforcement goals include increased high visibility patrols by uniformed officers, increased foot patrols, day bike teams that focus on retail establishment areas, and night bike teams focused on entertainment establishments, and constant and consistent engagement with retail establishments. The third priority that was set out in the 2024 strategic plan was focus on quality of life issues, and they go into even more definition. What I have here is to be very clear. I hope it's clear, but just to be very clear, this is a 22-page document. I've taken excerpts out of it here, but the full document includes some more analysis of each of the issues, but some of the goals that the 19th police district set for itself in responding to quality of life issues was outdoor roll calls, which we saw in some of the other goals, positive loitering with residents, as well as with faith-based institutions in the area, and being in touch with the Community Justice Center to follow arrests made in certain beats on the north side of our district, beats 19, 13, 14, and 15, to deal with quality of life issues. The Community Justice Center, for those who aren't aware, is an office of the state's attorney's office, the prosecutor, that's focused in the community and is designed to be more responsive to specific community concerns when it comes to the intersection between policing and prosecution. Also, the 19th district committed to ensure beat integrity and conduct foot patrol in affected areas. Beat integrity is a term for making sure that the same beat officers are walking the same beats or patrolling the same beats consistently, so that they have more knowledge of that area and of the people and businesses that live and work there, and additional CTA rides and checks. So these are just some of the things that we wanted to highlight that we are looking at that align a lot with what we're hearing from community members that we're going to bring back to the 19th Police District leadership to make sure that we're tracking progress toward these goals that have already been set out and endorsed by
Thanks, Sam. So before we introduce our speaker, I know Jenny had a few words that she would like to say tonight.
I want to share some of my own personal thoughts and reflections with you on this topic that we're about to bring up with tonight. My intention is to introduce ideas and perspectives that will help create a more well-rounded picture of how we can achieve meaningful public safety. I think it's important that we have a frank conversation about race in our community, especially as it relates to policing and public safety. Race and safety are intimately connected and have been since the foundation of policing. In our country, white people have been seen as the group worthy of protecting at any cost. Others, especially Black men, are often viewed as potential threats. This potential threat can be seen as enough to justify any harm that is inflicted upon them and has been used as a reason for taking away rights and freedoms from many individuals of color. This imbalance and inequitable system of protection has contributed to conditions that have left individuals living in neighborhoods without the resources they need to live safely and thrive, which ultimately negatively impacts safety outcomes across the city. The good news is that just as the system was created, we can work to create a system that protects all of us equally and fully. We begin this journey by examining and understanding the impact of our current practices and systems. It's difficult, but we must look deeply within ourselves and reflect on how our actions may be helping to uphold unequal systems of protection. We must build a system that values the life and freedom of all people. There is no such thing as effective public safety system that does not equally protect and work towards safety for all. I think these conversations are important to have, and I will bring some ways to make sure we can have them in our district. Starting tonight by learning about the desperate effect pretextual traffic stops have on white and Black Chicagoans and why that impacts all of us. Most of us in this room tonight are. I would assume that most of us have never been involved in a traffic stop that has gone wrong. However, I believe this topic is still important to us in our community, and I want to explain to you why. One, it's important to better understand these pretextual stops because they have a known potential to turn violent and create increased risk of harm to the person being stopped, to the officer making the stop, and potentially any nearby bystander. I understand that traffic stops can feel unpredictable to all individuals involved. Neither officer nor driver can know what is about to happen. That can lead to imagined fears that heighten impulses and leave all individuals feeling the need to protect themselves. I think this fear can be addressed and safety and trust can be built in communities by ensuring that our police officers are experts in de-escalation. Their training must make certain that they have the skills to remain calm and under control during moments of crisis that will trigger flight or fighting in most of us. Mastering de-escalation is vital for the safety of the officers as well as for the community member they are interacting with. This is an extraordinarily difficult expectation to put on our police. However, they have the tremendously consequential power to take the life of another person. So this requirement is necessary and needs to be taken seriously. Two, this unnecessary violence coupled with a large number of unnecessary stops sows distrust. Community stops believing police are there to protect them, and police start viewing the community as potential threats. This is a huge problem to public safety. Effective policing is dependent on strong relationships between the community and the officers that serve them. We should be creating ways for police and community to work as partners towards common goals to solve problems facing the community. We should not allow these traffic stops to create further risks. Three, we hear community employees very clearly when they say we do not have enough officers in the department. While we know the city is taking steps to hire more officers, we also know that we must make sure we are using the officers we do have most effectively and efficiently. As you will hear tonight, despite CPD conducting more than 500,000 traffic stops per year in 2022 and 2023, these stops result in very few citations and even fewer, less than 1%, according to the research done by Impact, result in illegal drug quality. Given limited resources, we have to maximize CPD's capacity to protect communities, walk their beats, and respond to 911 calls in a timely manner. It does not make sense for officers to be engaged in pretextual stuff that have very little impact on community safety. Let's create conditions for our officers to have time to work with the community to address the real safety needs in the community. We hear the narrative that there are bad actors within the Chicago Police Department and the work needs to be done to correct the actions of those officers. I think we need to flip that narrative and acknowledge that we have many great officers who are working in a system that is problematic and are not set up to maximize the safety and well-being of either officer or community member. As we look to reform our policing system, we must do it with everybody's safety in mind. The solutions exist. They just require we look more deeply and think more openly about how to achieve that. Introducing these ideas to the community and having discussions around them is one important way that I think district councils can be leaders in this. As always, I am open and committed to engaging more deeply in these conversations outside of these monthly meetings. They are very nuanced topics that benefit from longer, more intimate discussions. Please reach out to me at jennifer.shaver@chicago.org and we can set up a time to dialogue or have these nuanced discussions. That is what I want to say before I introduce Amy Thompson, who is here from Impact for Equity, to share some more about that. Okay.
Right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Thompson. As the district conference mentioned, I'm staff counsel at Impact for Equity, which is a law firm in Chicago, and we do work related to the criminal legal system and housing. I'm here tonight to talk to you on behalf of the Freedom Youth Coalition to discuss our research and advocacy on Chicago Police Department's traffic stop strategy. As I'm sure you all are aware, the shooting of Dexter Reed really brought a lot of questions about traffic stops to start the week. But this has been really an ongoing project for us as the Freedom Coalition for a couple of years now. So I'm just looking forward to talking to you more about what came from that. I will kind of start off talking a little bit about citywide data that we have related to traffic stops, and also an analysis that we've done related to the superintendent's first quarter as a superintendent, which was the last quarter of 2023. Then I'm going to dig into some data about the 19th district that we pulled out specifically so you can see what this looks like here. And then talk a little bit about the policy solutions that we, the Freedom Youth Coalition, believe address some of the issues that we see in the time. And I think if you have any clarifying questions, I'm presenting, feel free to raise them, but first, a little bit about the Freedom Youth Coalition. So we are an alliance of community members and advocacy organizations that are really looking to make a safer and more racially equitable traffic system in this. We initially came together in 2021 to discuss some of the alarming trends that we saw related to traffic safety in the city. And with that shared interest in mind, we began collecting and analyzing data on traffic stops and researching what other jurisdictions are doing to handle some of the problems that we saw here. The analysis has led to the production of reports on the scope, impact, and inequities of traffic stops, which analyzes data from 2004 through 2020. I first want to talk just a little bit about what I mean by stops. So the type of stops we're talking about today are when a police officer makes a stop of a vehicle for a traffic code violation. So that can include things like moving violations, like improper turns or speeding. It can include equipment violations like broken headlights or taillights, and it can also include licensing and registration violations like any of these can be a pretextual traffic stop. So a pretextual traffic stop is when an officer uses one of these traffic violations as a justification for the stop, when the real underlying motivation is to search for some evidence of criminal activity that they might not really have suspicion of, that they might not be really sufficient suspicion of, and that's why they use the traffic stop to justify it, and they'll continue to search up. What the stops that we're talking about today, and what the data is. Yeah.
Big difference between stopping someone for a moving violation, but for a registration violation. So why are they all being grouped potentially under pretextual traffic stops?
Sure, so, those are all examples of stops made for a traffic code violation. And so, yes, the type of conduct in terms of the danger varies quite widely. But those are all things that are in our, state and local traffic code. In terms of pretextual stops, they could be any of those justifications. It just depends on, what the officer decides to use to justify the stop. So,
But not all stops for that are pretextual.
correct. Not all traffic stops are protection stops. Correct.
It says they're signs of criminal activity. I mean, are they trained on that? I mean, is there something, I mean, like with the Dexter case? I mean, were 40 cars going by and why did they maybe stop that car? I mean, are they following up on a license plate? Did someone say they got carjacked? I mean, are they really, is this just, signs of criminal activity? Surely there's something more behind that, right?
Maybe, so I think what we're doing, what we're looking at here is traffic stops that are just justified by the traffic code violation, and maybe talking about what those aren't, I'll help answer some of that question. So what the type of stops we're not talking about is where say CP knows, oh, that was a vehicle that was stolen, and let me stop that vehicle. That's not what we're talking about here today. We're not talking about CCP sees someone rob someone else and they pursue that vehicle and they stop them. Those are not the types of stops we're talking about today. If CCP has a reasonable suspicion, which is in my opinion, pretty low legal standard to stop someone for a criminal activity, a non-traffic crime, they are able to do that, irrespective of whether the person happened to forget to renew their registration that month. So there is a basis for them to do that, but pretextual stops are when they do not necessarily have that basis, and then they're using the traffic code to potentially address a hunch, which is not legally sufficient. All right, let's talk a little bit about data. So we reviewed over 5 million traffic stops from 2004 to 2023. With a particular focus on stops after 2015, when CCP really practices. The data is from publicly available sources and Freedom of Information Act requests from the Chicago Police Department, the Illinois Department of Transportation, the Illinois Secretary of State, and the City of Chicago Office of Inspection. Our analysis led to some key findings. First, Chicago Police Department traffic stops have risen dramatically. Second, CPD isn't making traffic stops to make traffic safer. Instead, police are making large numbers of stops for minor traffic offenses to fish for evidence of criminal activity. Third, the stops are an ineffective tool to meet CPD's purported goal of crime investigation. And fourth, and most importantly, the stops are harmful and they're racially discriminating. CPD's traffic stops disproportionately impact Black and Latino drivers and communities in Chicago South. So traffic stops in Chicago have really skyrocketed. From 2004 to 2015, stop numbers decreased from around 240,000 stops to a low of around 86,000 stops in 2015. After 2015, stop numbers shot, increasing by 700%. Although numbers in 2020 dropped slightly due to the COVID-19 pandemic, stop numbers have rebounded and continue to rise. In 2023, CPD made over 537,000. The data also shows that the types of violations CPD is pulling people over for are increasingly shifting towards stops for minor offenses, rather than those that could present more serious traffic dangers. So, and in 2004, over 75% of the stops made by CPD were for moving offenses, which is the category of offenses most likely to be dangerous driving. Yet when stops began increasing in 2015, CPD began to focus more on making stops for non-moving violations, namely equipment or licensing and registration. After 2015, you can see equipment stops ballooning. And as of 2022, licensing and registration violations will be for the largest category. Last year in 2023, they were the reason for almost 45% of all CPD. When you look at the specific offenses people are stopped for, in 2023, nearly 70% of traffic stops were made for either having an unlit or broken headlight or taillight, or failure to have valid or properly displayed registration plates or tags. CPD made stops for more dangerous offenses like speeding much more rare. Speeding comprised only 0.68%. And the finding that CPD is making stops for minor reasons that generally don't present significant traffic safety risks is underscored by how infrequently drivers. In 2023, only 3.7% of traffic stops resulted in a citation. And that's far below the rate of other cities with large police departments. Last year, New York cited drivers in 85% of stops, and Houston cited drivers in 40%. So the increased numbers seem to be a shift in CPD from non-investigation strategy. In 2015, CPD entered into a settlement agreement with the ACLU in response to the ACLU's findings that CPD disproportionately stopped and frisked Black people, often without reasonable suspicion. This resulted in a significant reduction in CPD stop and frisk practices over the next few years. At the same time, CPD's traffic stop numbers shot up. It appears as if instead of stopping people when an officer has reasonable suspicion of criminal activity, CPD has pivoted to using contextual traffic stops. These allow them to stop drivers for minor reasons to fish for other signs of criminal activity, even when they have no real suspicion. But the data shows that the strategy of using stops for minor traffic violations as a pretext to stop a person and fish for evidence of criminal activity does not. As stops have increased, the percentage of traffic stops resulting in an arrest have decreased. In 2023, only 2.2% of traffic stops resulted in an arrest for any activity whatsoever, any criminal activity whatsoever. That low number has stayed consistent over the last 3 years when traffic stops increase. It's stayed consistent over the last 3 years. Further, police only rarely recover contraband like drugs, alcohol, or weapons. In 2023, less than 1% of traffic stops resulted in recovery of illegal items like drugs, alcohol, or weapons. About 0.3% reported inventory of drugs or drug paraphernalia. When you look specifically at firearm data, we also see only a small fraction of traffic stops leading to police recovering firearms. CPD records show that in 2023, across more than 537,000 traffic stops, only 0.5% of these stops resulted in recovery. The relatively infrequent contraband recovery and arrests generated by such massive numbers of traffic stops raises serious doubts as to the efficacy of CPD's bond. But beyond being effective, CPD traffic stops raise serious concerns because they disproportionately harm Black and Latino drivers and communities. Citywide from 2015 through 2021, the average Black driver was 6 times more likely to be stopped than the average white driver. Looking at individual police districts, in some police districts, in majority white areas, Black drivers were up to 10 times as likely to be stopped compared to white drivers. Citywide, Latino drivers during this period were stopped 2 times the rate of white drivers. And when you look at individual police districts, Latino drivers were more likely to be stopped than white drivers in about 73% of districts in 2015. And these disparities have persisted until last year. In 2023, citywide, black drivers were over 51% of those stopped, and yet they make up less than 29%. The teenage drivers also make up a significant percentage of those stops, comprising 30.7% of all stops last year. White drivers, however, were understopped compared to their population. White drivers were a mere 13.6% of the stop, despite being over 32%. And you can see how black and teenage drivers are impacted differently by seeing where CPD has heavily concentrated stops. So as CPD stop numbers have increased, so has the numbers of black and Latino communities on the stop list. In 2023, you can see this map. CPD increases focus on stops on the west. District 11, Chicago's West and East Garfield Park and Humboldt Park communities, was the location of over 10% of the city's stops. But District 11 is home to just 2.5% of the city population. District's also 96% black. District 10, District 11's neighbor immediately to the south, and District 7 in the Inglewood area had the next highest numbers of traffic stops. Both of those districts are also have a 96% black. We also see disparities when you look at other things that can happen during a traffic. So one of those things is a consent search. So a consent search occurs when an officer receives consent from a stop person to search themselves or their vehicle. But officers don't necessarily need to have any level of suspicion of criminal activity at all before requesting consent. But these searches are problematic because not only do they allow police to embark on a suspicionless fishing expedition of a person and their belongings, but the inherently coercive nature of a police encounter means that any consent given might not truly be voluntary. From 2015 through 2021, over 95% of consent search requests made during traffic stops were made to black or Latino drivers. 73% of those were made to black drivers and 22% were made to Latinos. Just 3.92% of consent requests were made to more severe harms can also come from a traffic stop. Traffic stops too often escalate into violence, and there too, black and Latino people experience the brunt of the impact. In 2023, CPD conducted 211 uses of force during a traffic stop. 95% of traffic stop uses of force were used. Now we'll take a little look at the first 3 months of superintendent's tenure, which we look at especially when we look at the full year of 2023. The data showed that under Superintendent Snelling, traffic stops have declined. As you may have heard Snelling say in public comments, he is interested in taking a different approach to traffic stops. He said he's open to shifting away from the strategy of using mass traffic stops to target crime, and that he's interested in focusing more on traffic stops that are made to address crime or to address transportation strategy. So we wanted to see if his first 3 months were indicative of that intention. And what we saw there is that, as I mentioned, traffic stops did decline slightly by 5%, to around 118,000 traffic stops that quarter. However, that number is still far too high. So if you remember the graph I showed initially of the traffic stops that went down in 2015, there were around 86,000 traffic stops. So more traffic stops were made during Superintendent Snelling's first quarter than the entire year. The data also showed that superintendent had an even greater focus on licensing and registration violations during the last quarter than during 2023. So in the fourth quarter, almost 49% of CPD stops were for licensing and registration violations. On the other hand, moving offenses comprised an even smaller category of stops, less than 1/4 of all stops. Speeding was just 0.43%. We also saw racial disparities persist in Superintendent Snelling's first quarter. So 81% of the stop drivers were black or Latino, and there was an even greater concentration of stops on Chicago's west. And finally, as for 2023 overall, the citation arrests and contraband recovery rates for traffic stops remains low. So fourth quarter, just 4.2% of traffic stops resulted in citation, 2.5% resulted in arrest, 0.8% resulted in contraband recovery, and only 0.5%. So overall, the traffic stop numbers show that superintendent Stallings' first 3 months is more of the same as traffic stops. So we think, well, we know it's just the first 3 months in his role. If he is really committed to voice traffic stops, we have a long way.
Got something there, Laura? This is an update, because superintendent selling attended a CCPSA, Public Safety and Accountability public hearing, as he was looking to by ordinance on April 8th, so it was earlier this month. He reported on that hearing, in response to questions about this issue, that in the first 3 months of this year, so not the numbers that was on the last quarter of 2023, which was his first quarter on the job, but this quarter, he reported 46,000 down, year to date this year than last year. I look forward hopefully to seeing that kind of analysis, for his next, as his year continues. He also did say publicly that he was, committed to putting controls on CPD use of traffic stops in the police consent decree. And he also asked the attendees at that meeting that if the numbers look the same next year that they did for this company after this year, and they looked like last year, that we can focus about that. So something just to update where at least he's reported that he's at publicly now. I don't know if you have anything to add on any of that.
Sure, yeah, so we, unfortunately don't have the 2024 numbers to what you said. What we can say is that comparing to the 2023 numbers, so he's saying they're down 46,000 year to date, 2024 compared to 2023. Well, the first quarter of 2023, which is approximately the same time range that he's talking about, seemed to be around 166,000 stops, which was an unusually high number. So if you subtract 46,000 from that, that's around 20,000 traffic stops, which is about what we made it. So, it remains to be seen. What I understand that it takes time to get this forward in the department, but based on what we've seen so far, we think that
Maybe we have a couple questions.
oh,
Yeah.
The easiest way for you to make the point, simply contrast the, say, 500,000 traffic stops, which are presumably based on an observed violation of the law, compared to 4% citation. I mean, that means 96% or 95% of the stops were presumably for an observed violation weren't ticketed. So what was the point? Isn't that the most powerful way to summarize what you're saying?
yeah, we think that that is a very powerful data point that we think that it clearly indicates that those other 96% or some large percentage of them were not necessarily made because there was a dangerous traffic activity going on. It was really
You're noticing that this drastically increased in that latter time period. Anything else now? It just seems like a massive shift.
yes, yeah. So what we saw happening simultaneously is CPD reducing their solid risk practices. And so prior to 2015 or during 2015, there was a huge manpower devoted to solid risk, which is stopping people along the sidewalks to frisk them. And the data from ACLU showed that there was huge racial disparities. Before litigation pursued, the ACLU and CPD entered into a consent or into a settlement agreement where the CPD agreed to significantly reduce that practice. So those numbers went way down. And at the same time, traffic stop numbers went way up, and traffic stops were not covered by the settlement agreement that they entered into.
That was separate from the second.
Correct, yeah, it's a separate agreement, yes. That was in 20.
So you see, looking at this now,
So the ACLU actually, has sued, CPT for this practice, and they filed in July of last year. So there's an ongoing lawsuit for, this protection of practice.
I have one thing on that, just on the stopping first practices, and if you're interested in a real deep dive to that, there's a book by a university, or Northwestern University professor in West Scoggin called Stop Interest in Politics of Crime in Chicago. Actually, all three of us read it, and it's constituent, who is a leader here in the 19th district, with West Scoggin before he's in office. But it really is dramatic to see the tremendous rise in stop interest that ended one day in 2015. That's exactly when the traffic stops, not street stop interest, traffic stops.
And everyone also mentioned the consent decree, that settlement agreement has now been folded into the consent decree. So as of last summer, stop and frisk practices are generally part of the consent. That's. Oh, yeah.
Point out, you pointed them out, so I pointed to you. You might need a footnote, or you might be down a flaw in your flow chart where you're talking about the stops for mechanicals going up around 1995, somewhere in the late 90s. Rod Blagojevich gave his buddy inspections, and we no longer had inspections. They just plug your car in, they don't do anything. They used to actually look at your car. So, and then the bigger point that stuck out in my mind, because I remember when I had a car, the guy goes, "Oh, this is your last inspection." What do you mean? It's like your car's grandfathered inspections. We got a lot of older cars that were never inspected. So that's a data point right there where you might say this is when they stopped. Because you had to jump in it, and a lot of older cars that maybe should be on the road. So, that's a public safety thing that maybe they're doing that.
Okay.
And I will point out that license and registration, it's tax. We're all paying our tax. Everybody should pay their fair share of tax, and also maybe might be a tie in there not having insurance, and that costs everybody a lot of money. And everybody's getting ready to get an insurance raise too. I have to be very defense lawyer. Bank boat's going up, all states going up, way up. That's uninsured motorist costs. And so, if they stop somebody for a license registration, they're kind of doing everybody a service.
Just to jump to the last one, one of the things that we want to be clear, we're not saying, one of the things we talk about consistently is, should police be doing this kind of work? If we really wanted to get folks for licenses that are expired, the Department of Revenue, I'm sure would be happy to get that revenue. So that's one of the things that we want to point out specifically speaker is, how do we maximize our use of our CPDs?
My thought, no. If somebody's blocking traffic, yes. But a parking ticket, no, and you are right, what's their highest and best use, but, some of the stuff does cost us.
Why did you? On that note, let's look a little bit more into the 19th district. So you can see from the line graph that the stops in your district initially follow the same trajectory as stops overall the city, so increasing significantly after 2015, dipping in 2020, then rebounding again. But in 2023, for your district, you actually saw a 10% increase in stops from 2020 to 2022. So last year you had around 14,166 stops. 14,166 stops. And compared to the other districts in the city, really are at the very bottom. So you're ranked 21st of 22 of the 22 police districts, 2.6%. Despite having 8% behind those. When you look at the specific types of stops that are made here in District 19, they roughly parallel the numbers for the city overall. So around 45% of traffic stops being made for licensing and registration violations, and roughly equal percentages for moving stop violations and equipment stop violations. And with respect to citations, drivers in the 19th district were actually cited at a higher rate than drivers citywide. So as you might recall, citywide rate was 23, and in your district it was around 12. But even numbers are relatively low compared to other districts. The racial disparities here are quite strict. In 2022, we performed a racial disparity analysis that compared the estimated driver populations with stop data. And from there, we produced ratios of the probability of a driver from a racial minority group being stopped as compared to a white driver. That analysis showed that during the 2015 through 2021 period, in District 19, Black drivers were 7.19 times as likely as white drivers to be stopped. Latino drivers were 3.48 times as likely to be stopped as white drivers, and Asian drivers were 1.85 times. And when you look at the data from 2023, you can see significant disparities in terms of the population of minority groups and their stops compared to the white population and their stops. So for Asian drivers, Black drivers, and Latino drivers, they were far overrepresented in terms of their numbers, their percentage of traffic stops compared to their percentage of population. Whereas we see with white folks, white people are 36.2% of 2023's traffic stops in District 19, and yet there's 71. I'm sorry, yeah.
I don't know if the space in your county, you know, simple libraries that you have on the should drive in a version park. I've spoken with some of them, but because of a system that they're not able to do them. So they spend a lot of time around, they really don't have anything to do while the system process. So, and I think there is a tendency for them to get into workflow than other people would because they don't have anything else to do.
So I see the population data here is from census data, so like we just taken a couple of years ago, which is data that's collected and analyzed by the city of Chicago's office of the Secretary General. So likely would not include them in the underlying population, and would only their stops of those folks would only be included if they had a car and were stopped in their vehicle, because these are vehicles. So. So yes, yeah, it's potentially that those folks are some of the folks that were.
To address your question specifically, one of the things that we've been advocating for is for the state government to expedite work permits, so migrants can become legally available to work. So that's one of the things that. So that's one of the things that we've been advocating for.
They haven't listened yet. So we'll keep trying.
So we have shared a lot of the data on traffic stops. We've also talked to, we in the coalition have talked to folks who experience traffic stops, who talk about what it feels like to be stopped repeatedly, to feel as if you're targeted in your neighborhood or elsewhere, but you just go to school or get to work or go to the grocery store. And we also, in response to that, wanted to think more about, what do we do about this problem? What could Chicago do to think more about how do we keep our roads and our communities safer without engaging in something that seems pretty clearly to be a waste of resources and it's something that targets communities. So we embarked on a process to develop a policy platform that would address this. Talk with jurisdictions across the country who are taking on reforms like this to address racially disparate traffic stops in a lot of interesting and new ways. And we also looked at, talked with national policing groups who are experts on this and they think could be effective ways to change. And we developed a 3-part policy platform that we think could go a long way to addressing Chicago's. So first, we suggest that CPD should limit certain low-level stops. So stops for minor violations generally have little to no impact on roadway safety, but nonetheless end up being some of the most common had a list of particular stops or particular traffic offenses that could not make traffic stops solely for those offenses. That can include things like having a single broken ticket light, failure to have a license plate light, or having recently expired registration within just a few months. A number of jurisdictions have taken a version of that change, including Virginia, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Oregon, and the San Francisco Police Department. Early data from Philadelphia showed that after the reform, police seem to be more purposeful with their investigations in both the actual number of weapons and the rate of weapon recovery from traffic stops. The second prong of the policy is to eliminate contextual stops directly. So reducing stops for low-level offenses may, to some degree, reduce contextual traffic stops. However, the change leaves room for folks to pivot to use different traffic offenses like failure to make a stop at a stop sign as a basis to pull over drivers in a potential way. So the second prong would restrict officers from making pretextual stops. Closing this legal loophole would prevent police from stopping people for minor traffic violations with the intention of fishing for signs that they draws in the first place. Last year, the Los Angeles Police Department implemented a version of this policy, and preliminary data outcomes showed a reduction in stops for minor offenses and decreased minor stops for traffic drivers. And then finally, we're advocating an end to suspicious consent searches during traffic stops for traffic violations. So one of the incentives to perform a contextual stop is the hope that an officer might potentially find evidence of criminal violations during a traffic stop. But even if they don't have any suspicion of that, they can still legally ask a person for a consent search, even if they don't have that suspicion in the first place. As we talked a little bit about earlier, there is an inherently coercive nature of a traffic stop, particularly for drivers of color. This policy would prevent phishing by requiring law enforcement to have an independent legal basis to conduct a search of a person, their vehicle, or their belongings during a traffic code violation stop. Places like Connecticut, Rhode Island, and the San Francisco Police Department have successfully passed it.
Do we have one question? Did you have a question?
That's a great question.
Excellent.
We believe, and the evidence shows that reforms can possibly come and public safety. So we would expect to see a reduction in the use of contextual traffic stops that might lead to fewer harmful interactions with police, as well as reduction in racial disparities in police. Targeted communities may be more likely to trust and cooperate with law enforcement if they don't feel as if they're continually subjected to emotional, physical, financial, and legal harms of excessive. The reduction in stops would also hopefully allow more officer time to be allocated to issues that communities really care about, like regulating dangerous driving, responding to emergencies, resolving some of the unsolved crimes that are currently sitting, and getting to know the communities they serve, engaging in community policing. So by implementing
Just one of those.
by implementing this reform policy, Chicago would make significant progress towards transforming the way policing is done and achieving a more racially equitable. Great. If you're interested in getting involved with our coalition network, you can sign a petition right now for advocating for the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability to provide great about traffic stops. In order to do that, you have to get signatures from Chicago residents. So signatures. You can join the coalition if you're interested. You can share your story. We're also collecting stories from folks who have had traffic stop experiences if they are individual problems that we see. By on board, you can encourage Mr. Counselors to sign onto our platform. There have been 6 different councils across the city that have voted to sign onto our policy platform to support, and we're excited about that connection to the community.
And just a quick note, the petition, we do have petition sheets in the back, so if anybody is willing to sign tonight, see Charles in the back, he's waiting the form right here. One question.
Frustrated. In project. Was this, spike misguided as it seems to have been? Because like you pointed out, very low harassment percentage relative to the number of stops. But was it an attempt to deal with carjacking? That, I'm trying to understand why the police have been doing this for something like 7-8 years. It has really not been productive. And then given the fact we have police retiring, have a shortage, we have allocation issues, it just seems completely illogical. And if your numbers are accurate, and then I'm just trying to grasp at why, I just find it odd that it's totally tied to the stop and frisk thing. Sort of when we've had also currently big rate increases in carjackings and other crimes too.
Yes, thank you for the question. We do not see the reflected in the data that the increase in traffic stops is reflected of an increase in carjackings. The increase in traffic stops started in 2015, which is earlier than the recent spike in carjacking that we've seen. And so we don't see that tie. And furthermore, to emphasize, these are stops for traffic violation. These are not stops for, oh, I see that car, I know that license plate, that's a car that's been stolen. And so we see kind of fishing, you know, hoping, stopping people for traffic violations, hoping that potentially it's a person who's stolen a car at some point, to be a pretty inefficient way of getting at the real problems that communities are seeing. And we think that it's really kind of a question of resource use. We think that all of the person hours that are going into making over 500,000 traffic stops a year could be going towards something. So it is a good question. Currently under Illinois law, quotas. There are people who are suing the police department alleging that there are quota systems in place despite that law prohibiting them. But I will say that we, as part of our research, we also wanted to get a sense of that. How is this communication happening within departments? Who is telling who what to go do to produce these spikes? So we submitted a Freedom of Information Act request for emails among a certain area of work on the west side of Chicago. Leadership, searching for the words traffic stops for a 3-month period in 2020. The emails that we found showed that there was a lot of discussion. There is a belief that traffic stops will address crime and violence. That's what this discussion was you need to increase your numbers to address crime and violence in the city. Keep increasing your numbers aren't high enough. There were regularly emails sent around with rankings of districts in terms of numbers, the highest numbers of stops to the lowest numbers of stops. Districts with high numbers of stops were praised, and those lower numbers of stops. So that is what we saw, at least in 2020.
Is to your point, if this is ineffective, why are we doing it? That's another reason that we're advocating, and I'm glad that the workforce allocation is about to happen for us, because we want to understand a little bit more in terms of data, what is being done and where can we use our resources best. Question earlier asking if traffic stops went up, what went down. We don't want to use traffic stops as a resource if it's not effective. So we want the workforce allocation study to highlight some of those inefficiencies so that we know where we can place our officers so that we can maintain unit integrity or have officers biking our district. So another reason why we advocated so far for the workforce allocation study.
And we've kind of mentioned this already, but as we talk thinking about what makes expanded public safety system would look like. And right now, really the main pillar of our public safety is policing. And that's an important piece, but it has to be more than that, right? And so creating, one thing that came up in some of the conversations that we had with the community around our engagement plan was, what would a secondary tier of community safety officer look like? Who could address some of these low level safety issues? Because I would agree, they are, someone driving around with a headlight out is a concern. But maybe we should give them a headlight instead of giving them a ticket for a headlight. Or making sure that they have resources to be safe. And this community safety position that is very much now in a dream state of ours. It's something that can address it every time. The more we talk about it and the more we think about it as a community, the more we can make these things actually happen, which is a major goal.
That's how Mary, I think you'll be our last question, and then we'll move to all the comments.
Over the winter, a presentation by the Inspector General, and a joint District Council meeting. What about bringing this to the Inspector General for investigation?
Yes, so the Office of Inspector General has done an investigation and has raised real red flags about racial disparities. They published a report almost 2 years ago, March 2022, talking about the racial disparities, traffic stops and pedestrians. So yes, public safety watchdogs across the city, not just the Office of Inspector General, have also raised real concerns about this practice, not only its utility and keeping us safe, but also the
One last thing before we move to public comment. Charles is going to be passing around the petition sheet that we were talking about if you're interested in signing. And it's really just asking CPSA to have a hearing to bring in experts and have a discussion about what this looks like.
With that, these microphones. And with that, I would like, on behalf of the 19th District Council, thank Amy Thompson for coming tonight and being our speaker. Okay, hopefully these microphones will last with us for the last few minutes. I would like to call up for public comment. As a reminder, everyone has 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name, spell your name, and then we can start the official record. Just a couple of guiding questions. What are your thoughts on the information presented today? Anything you'd like to see prioritized for our future meetings? And there are any issues that you're dealing with that you'd like us to be aware of? So our first public speaker today would like to come up. I don't know what's going on with the slides. Here we go. Venus Cavaros, if you are still here. I also did want to mention that my timer is now finally becoming relevant because we do have flowers in the neighborhood. Okay, it looks like Venus is not here. Do we have Ron Meadows? And that microphone should be live, so I'll set the timer after 6.
MEA, DOWS, 31 years, 19th district, 5 of them in this district, and down here, and then the rest up in Lincoln Square. But I think you guys want what you do. There was the article in the paper, I'm sure you read it, Sam, you were in the picture, on April 7th, that talked about there's 22 of these police district councils, and it really appears that we have one of the most organized and one of the ones that's, the best use of our time to take time out of our evenings to come here and to do this. So I thank you for doing it, and hopefully some of the others that are struggling can learn from what you guys do. I will add that I was really disappointed when I saw that the mayor missed the deadline for the nominations that you guys worked so hard on. You told us about that meeting. So hopefully that they will get that done, because the job of you guys is the oversight, accountability, and public safety. I think it's accountability to the police officers, accountability, for the courts and the criminals. Everybody needs to be accountable. So, and that's just a little bit more on that. I was just going to point out something that really kind of, we need to put a little pressure on our politicians. And on the 4300 block of Oakley the other day, a block from the old Alderman's house, a mom and her 2 daughters were bombed. Children. I mean, it's really disturbing when you see something that I actually would be of my current impression. I had run home 40 years ago and I still think about it. And we have a little child. So we just need to go, we need to have a professional politician. The mayor did say the other day, he wants to get to the root cause of this problem. And that is true. Because there are parts of the city where there are no opportunities. We need to do it better than it's been done in the past. But right now we need solutions so that we can be safe and our children can be safe. So anyway, again, thanks for what you do and everybody who's here. Because you get to make your voice heard.
Appreciate that, everyone. And I want to double on that last point. We really appreciate you being here. And as Jenny mentioned earlier, please get your friends and neighbors to come and attend this because the more people that we get enrolled, the more safe our communities become. So thank you, Ron. I want to call up Nick Cole. I think he might have left. Okay, so Joanne Becker, please. Just say your name, spell it, and then we can start the time.
Joanne Becker, Joann, no Becker. My question relates to, and I attend the Coalition of Airport Road Commuters meeting once a month on the south side, because I know the president of the coalition. So I get to connect with the Black community a lot. And one of the items that I'm very curious about, every time I mention to people, I'm very saddened by these young people who are very talented, who are getting shot and killed in some of these neighborhoods. And I believe, and I tell people, I say, look, don't the people in the neighborhoods know who the dirtballs are, who have guns and shoot people? And they say, yes, of course they do. They're afraid to tell anyone who those people are. So my challenge to your district and all the other ones is, can you develop a process and method where people can contribute the information of who these people are, with the guns that are shooting all these people? Sometimes they go after specific people, but many times they can't even shoot the people they want to shoot because they're not good shooters. They're not talented in anything. And we are losing too many young people of color who are very talented, doing very well in school, and they get shot by all these dirtballs who have guns. We can't prevent them from getting guns, but I know people know who these people are. They've got to convey that so that people can go after them and, lock them up and get them off the street. And if they're, have 2, 3 violations, why are they back out on the street shooting people? There's something that needs to be done. So I look to you as a district and all the other ones to figure out how to deal with that.
Thank you, Joanne. I think that's a great idea to add to our community partnership plan. I know that the violence interrupters are very important to our city and our community. So we'll look forward to being that liaison. Our last public speaker for the night is going to be Max Umansky.
Everyone. Max Umansky, MAXUMANSKY. I work for State Senator. I just wanted to share what I learned at the 18th District Police Council that happened last night. I don't know if it's totally the case, but I heard the mayor actually put up, he has selected his appointees for new CCSA. That there's just a hold up with a single alderman, but on the police and fire layout chair. I don't know if it's somebody else in the city, but I have heard that he has selected people, but there's some hold up with something in city council working that out. And my understanding is that this announcement is going to be happening. That's all I really wanted to say. Just really appreciate what you all do, and hope everybody has a really great night.
Likewise, thanks, Max. Oh, well. Susan Resnichek. I'm sorry if I butchered that.
I just have a question about, when you talk about quality of life, even this like car searching thing. I'm usually loud. Is the whole tinted window thing.
I mean, when I'm out now, I mean, I almost got hit by a guy a few months back who had the tinted windows, and I kind of went up to it like, do you not see me here? What, you know, and they'll stop sometimes if you're like, are you on your phone? Are you looking at me? There's a lot of studies. I think my brother-in-law told us they just went through this where eye contact, they showed all these studies. Eye contact is the #1 safety feature when you come up on a person in a car, walking or on a bike. We're not making eye contact. And now I'm just scared of this guy that almost hit me was smoking something larger than a cigarette, but smaller than a cigar. And you're like, so these people with tinted windows, you're on the public thoroughfare. I just don't understand how you can possibly be doing something that's harmful, and most definitely, regardless, not making eye contact, like the search thing. You know, if you could look in the car, I mean, like even with this Dexter Reed thing, which is horrible, but did the officers think there were 4 people in the back or 3 people in the back that had guns pointing at them? I mean, you don't know. So if you're on a public thoroughfare, why can't I make eye contact with you and feel safe? When I'm out, even if I'm driving home at night and I see somebody with tinted windows coming up, I drive around the block. I don't even get out of my car because I don't know what does that guy have a gun? Is he drunk? Is he smoking pot? Does he see me? So I just, and I think, you know, if a camera can spot blocks the way that my license plate went through a, you know, stop sign too fast, put in a camera, tell it that when those windows are overly tinted. I mean, I think the mayor would be happy to pick up some money for being overly tinted windows. And like I say, there's so many ways. Those guys that do the tickets. Oh, that they could have a machine. Oh, that's overly tinted. You know, it wouldn't be anything that a police officer would have to do. Does that make sense?
It does, and the tinted windows is something that I've been curious about. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or knowledge behind that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those thoughts. Looking back at the slides that were shared by our guests today, it looks like in 2023, just over 2% of all traffic stops in Chicago, of the more than 500 times that were happening, were for tinted windows. I guess I think what we need to do in looking at traffic stops overall is really look at what is the road safety contribution that stop is, and you make some really good points that, you know, there is a safety aspect to window tints, so that we need to look more carefully at that, and we're sort of being very careful about what stops we might want to limit versus ones we want to.
Okay, so just a few more slides before we wrap up today. And I just would note the QR code that's up here, it's from last month, so please ignore it. Apologies if you were trying to access it. Our next meeting, it's going to be Wednesday, May 29th at Waters Elementary. So it's at 4500 block of North Campbell. And then as we normally like to end our meetings, we wanted our reminders and calls to action. So again, sign up for our local business canvas so that we can help Jenny pass out the mental health resource park cards. Of course, attend our next meeting, bring your friends. Share these alternative mental health numbers with friends and community. I had a situation in which I shared it with a bartender where there was a woman sleeping out in front of the entrance, and I knew that calling police wasn't the right thing, and they also believe that. So it always comes in handy to have them available for you. And then again, as Charles was passing around, thank you, Charles, for considering a petition, signing our petition so that the CCPSA will hold a special meeting centered around pretextual traffic stops. And then with that, I will call the meeting at 8:02. Thank you so much for everybody. Again, our next meeting is May 29th at Waters Elementary. Thank you to our host here, Roger, Fran, at the Meeting Center. Always very, very appreciative of your hospitality. So thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Library has 3 books called Stop It. What was the author? Stop, West